Hello, welcome to T-Source News, the most reliable station for the most reliable people. First up, we have a story written by our very own T-Source, who happens to be me. It is about a local a local software company that operates in the business sector. But to find out more, I did some research and even interviewed a few people. So, let's get into it. Hello, Craig.
Hi, Thomas.
What did you do before Digital Fusion?
Before Digital Fusion, I had a couple of jobs. After finishing university, I did one job for 2 or 3 years. Then I moved to Christchurch and did another job for 2 or 3 years. Both of those were programming jobs.
Do you have any more details about those jobs?
Yeah, so the first one was called multimedia development. So this is before the World Wide Web was really very well known at all. So we were helping to make educational products for teaching Japanese, and we were using a hyperlinked software to do that. So like some of the web stuff, but not web.
Interesting. So what inspired you to start Digital Fusion?
Well, after I had done that first job, and then I did the second job I did was developing business software, and I found that frustrating, and I could see that the World Wide Web was now becoming a very big thing. This is in the early 90s, and I thought it would be good to set up a business and to get on to that bandwagon and see if we could take part in that. And I wanted to get away from doing business software.
Interesting. So how is Digital Fusion doing now?
Well, it's great. Ironically, the web part of the business we split off into a separate company, and Digital Fusion is now all about building business software. But the reason for that is because we found a really nice way to develop business software that is far more reliable and offers far better value than what we were using in those early days in my previous job. And so Digital Fusion has specialized in developing custom business software, and that is a business that just continues to grow.
Interesting. So, in your own words, how would you describe what you do?
What I do as CEO or at the company?
What the company does, sorry.
The company. So the company builds custom business software that is usually for like job tracking or workflow or customer management or order management. It is very much the front operational part of the business that we build software for, and that part of each business is done differently, even in the same industry. So as an example, we built a flight record system for a helicopter company. We build a system that manages track maintenance for Sydney trains. So we have a very diverse range of different projects that we do, but each one is really unique and really about how that business operates.
Cool. So have you had any experiences with customers attempting to change the price after you finished the software they asked for?
Well, they don't really try and change the price per se. What normally happens is they change what the software does. They change what they want. It's very hard for customers to really know every detail about how they want their own software to work. And so that will change, and then that of course has an effect on the price because more work or less work has to go in, usually more work. And so then you do sometimes have customers arguing back that that the price has cost them more than they expected, but that's typically because they've asked for a lot more than what they wanted in the beginning.
Interesting. So on average, how pleased would you say your customers are with the products you produce?
How pleased are they?
Yeah.
Very, very much so. I'll give you one example of a company here in Christchurch who we developed a piece of software for. Their original idea was quite small and simple, and it grew, and it cost them 10 times what they originally wanted. And after about 2 years, and this project sort of escalating and expanding and including a lot of things, we said to them, look, you've spent a lot more than you ever set out to. Would you, if you knew that at the beginning, would you have done it? Would you do this again? And the customer said yes, because it provided so much value to their company. It basically allowed their salespeople to do twice as many consultations each week. So it doubled the productivity. Mm-hmm. So the software that we produce often, not always, but often has a really tangible financial gain for the customer.
That's really cool. How much do you normally charge your customers? Like, what is the rate you charge?
Well, it's based on the time that we need to spend, and we charge it at the moment. It's around $200 an hour.
So, what would you say your work environment is like?
So we have physical offices. These days a lot of IT firms don't so much, or they have spread out teams, especially overseas in America. A lot of companies like ours, in fact, some of the companies specialising in the same sort of thing as us over in America don't have any physical offices. They've closed them down, especially since COVID, whereas we do operate a main office here in Christchurch. We have about 5 remote people as well, but we love to get them here and into the office. The office is modern and clean and tidy and inspiring.
How friendly is the atmosphere? How is everyone friendly and chummy, or do people constantly argue and bicker?
No. Well, to be honest, programmers are very quiet sort of people, and programming by its nature is very quiet. So sometimes it's like walking into a library. It's very quiet, but they get on really well, and it's a really good team atmosphere. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you for answering my questions.
You're welcome.
Hello?
Hello.
The FIFA World Cup is one of the most watched sporting events in the world. It is very important and significant on the sporting world. Ever since the start of the World Cup, which is just under 100 years ago, it has been held every 4 years except in 1942 and 1946 due to World War II. People love the World Cup due to many reasons, such as the skill and passion displayed. The World Cup is a very big deal to the sporting calendar. I'm curious as to whether people would want a FIFA World Cup every 2 years and what their opinions are on this. My first interview is with Christine Higgins. The FIFA World Cup is one of the most watched sporting events in the world. It is very significant and very important on the sporting calendar. Ever since the start of the World Cup, which was just under 100 years ago, it has been held every 4 years, except in 1942 and 1946 due to the World War. People love the World Cup due to many reasons, such as skill and passion. So as you can see, the World Cup is a very big issue in the sporting world. And I chose to do my feature article and my audio package about the FIFA World Cup being every 2 years and people's opinions on it. My first interview will be with Christine Higgins.
Wider effects on society and stuff.
So what do you think the pros of having the World Cup every 2 years are?
Obviously tourism is a big one. Like getting people out there and, I guess exploring the world, because I guess, now it's good that everyone's exploring their own country.
Yeah.
But obviously the world's, wider than one place. So I think going and exploring different cultures, different foods, is definitely a great thing. Personally, I like to travel.
Yeah.
So I would love to have it, go to different places every 2 years if I could. But definitely tourism, and coming on from that, like the impact on the economy as well. So, having more money being injected into the economy as well would definitely be a really good thing.
So what do you think the cons of having the World Cup every 2 years are?
Definitely the name of the World Cup, it's like a lot more common, so it's not as prestige.
Yeah.
But it also another con is it definitely comes from tourism as well, because I remember Rugby World Cup in 2020 in Japan. I remember reading this article, there's a lot of drunk foreigners on the train, and they were vandalizing public property and stuff. So I guess with tourism comes, the bad side of it as well. Yeah.
This is about the Foot World Cup, but this is it's pretty much same subject. So
okay. Yeah.
So since it would only be every 2 years, would you think about going to watch a World Cup?
Definitely, yeah, because it's one of those things that if it comes to New Zealand and Australia, it's definitely a lot more accessible.
Yeah, definitely.
And if I miss it, it's definitely something that I could be it's something I could go to again. It's always going to be there, rather than every 4 years. It's something that you'd have to wait a lot longer for. So I guess having that accessibility is a lot easier. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you think the players would handle like the World Cup being every 2 years and all of that, and the Euros every 2 years? You know.
Yeah, I think it'd be a lot more stressful
Yeah.
for the athletes. Like obviously it's something that every athlete and every footballer wants to aspire to play in. But I think having it that often, having such high stakes like that, would definitely take a mental toll on the athletes. Because I think, I'm not 100% sure how the procedure works, but I think after the Olympics or something like that, they'd have like a few weeks of rest. Whereas if it was every 2 years, then they'd be getting straight back into it again. So there'd be that mental strain on them, but also coming from that is like the physical strain.
Yeah.
So they're always training and they never really have that time to rest.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. So that could definitely shorten like the life of their career.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, which
Yeah,
is definitely not good.
Yeah. So do you think 2 years is too frequent?
I'd say it kind of depends. So like on the players, I'd say it's a bit too frequent. Like if they wanted to shorten it, I'd say 3 years would probably be pretty good. So they still have that rest time.
That's true.
But in terms of like economy and tourism, I'd definitely say it's a good thing. Because of the different pros that I mentioned earlier. But yeah, I think overall, having it every 2 years is a good thing.
Yeah.
And especially now, like I'm not trying to attack players or something, but there's a lot more talent coming through. So in the event that someone's career does unfortunately get shortened, there's always new talent coming through. So it's not like there's ever going to be a lack of talent, I guess. And yeah, pretty much the effects on society as well is definitely a good thing.
Alright, okay, thank you, Christian.
Yeah, no worries.
So next up is Mr. McFarlane, and here's what he had to say. Alright, so when you're ready. So, do you think having the World Cup every 2 years will be a good idea?
I personally don't.
Okay.
I think that there are sufficient international competitions, European competitions, regionalised competitions in South America and Africa that would be pretty complex to try and fit in another World Cup.
Yeah, okay. So why do you think the pros of having the World Cup every 2 years are?
Well, I'd probably said the pros would be marketing, because it's such a fantastic game, and watching it with the best teams in the world, best nations. It's a fantastic event.
Alright. So what do you think the cons of having the World Cup every 2 years are?
I just think logistically it's very, very difficult to get arranged. It costs a lot, I'm sure, to put it on, and to work out who can afford that every second year might be difficult.
So since it would only be every 2 years, would you think about going to watch a World Cup?
I would. I think it'd be a great spectacle. It'd be pretty costly, but it's one of those things you want to do once in your lifetime.
So how do you think the players would handle like all this football going on every 2 years?
The players, I think they have an incredibly busy year as it is.
Yeah.
So I don't know how, as I say, I don't know how it would be fitted in.
So this is the last question. Do you think 2 years is too much?
Is too frequently?
Yeah, too frequently.
Yes, I do. Yeah, okay. I think 4 years is about right.
Okay. Cheers, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. McFarlane. Now we have Mr. Sheet. That's the FIFA World Cup.
I think there's some benefits to that because it means the countries get more opportunities to play and compete for that. However, probably resourcing becomes challenging because it's a big haul within that, and maybe if it's too often, maybe that takes away the special occasion from it. So probably when I really think about it, I think it's probably more better if it's every 4 years.
Oh, yeah. So what do you think the pros of having the World Cup every 2 years are?
The pros would be, like I said, you get more countries involved and more opportunities to win that World Cup, and you really build international football with that. But it may put pressure on the clubs, but it does build international football. Yeah.
So what do you think the cons of having the World Cup every 2 years are?
I just think probably resourcing, and then probably puts pressure on club football, and then it also probably makes it challenging in terms of resourcing, in terms of the actual locations and how much effort there'd have to be lots of countries that would be willing to take that. It probably takes about 8 to 10 years to get ready for a World Cup. So yeah, there would be some challenges.
So since it would only be every 2 years, would you think about going to watch a World Cup?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's the pinnacle of world sport, so it's pretty cool.
Pretty good. So how do you think the players would handle this?
I think it's good, and I think it would promote more players playing international football, which makes it better in terms of their opportunities, and I think their pride in their country. It gets to show that, so you'd really open it up, which is a good idea.
Yeah. And the last question: do you think 2 years is too frequent?
Probably looking at all the information, yeah, I probably think it's probably too frequent. I think just because the pressure that it puts on, there is lots of pros, but I think it probably puts too much pressure on.
Right, okay, thank you, sir. Now in my fourth and final interview, I now have speaking Mr. Turrell.
World Cup every 2 years.
Yeah.
I suppose you would have a very clear idea as to the best teams in the world at any point. So if you can see them competing every 2 years, you'd have something really quite recent to refer back to. So there would be that. I'll say that's a pro. Another pro would be it would give a lot of countries the opportunity to host it, and it would spread the word of football. Particularly for those countries that are a bit more like disadvantaged, maybe like the African countries a little bit more, and where they really love football. Yeah, that's what I reckon.
So what do you think the cons of having the World Cup every 2 years are?
The cons of having the World Cup. I think if you had it too often, it would mean that the reputation of a World Cup. If you're a World Cup winner, you wouldn't be seen in such high regard, right? Because it's all right. Well, in the next 2 years we'll have another new one, and this, that, and the other. The cons of it also as well is that it is quite to put a World Cup on requires a lot of resources.
Yeah,
it's a lot of money that possibly countries might think, oh, let's not worry about certain other issues, but let's do everything to try to host this World Cup. So I'll say those are the cons.
So since it would be on the every 2 years, would you think about going to watch a World Cup?
If it's on every 2 years?
Yeah, would you think about going?
Yeah, I would. If it's on every 2 years, 4 years, 10 years, yeah, I'd always go and watch a World Cup. Yes.
So how do you think the players would handle this, like, with the Euros being every 2 years and AFCON and all that, you know?
Well, they would probably be overworked, I'd imagine, and the problem might be also as well that players would suffer injuries and probably not really at the level that they play, not really have the opportunity to recover properly.
Yeah, I see.
So that might be a bit of a problem, which I guess is a con as well about it. But yeah.
So do you think 2 years is too frequent?
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. And that's my audio package on about the World Cup being every 2 years.